So you've built this incredible brand now. I want to take you back to where it all started.
I wish my life had like a very simple line of I was born, I loved finance, I studied finance, and I did business.
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Make It Happen podcast. I have an incredible guest here today, Simran Kaur from Girls That Invest.
Hello.
If you haven't heard of Girls That Invest, where have you been? Thank you so much for being here, Sim.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Do you want to share a little bit more about what you do and who you are?
Absolutely. For those that don't know me, my name is Simran Kaur. I founded an online media company called Girls That Invest. It's an online education company, and I'm an angel and venture investor. And what I love to do, my whole passion, is helping women and minorities learn how to invest in public markets, in real estate, angel investments. Started off with it being like a passion project, and now on the podcast we have 10 million downloads. We've had hundreds of thousands of women follow us across social media. We've had so many take our investing masterclass, and we have a bestseller book now. So it's been an awesome journey, and a newsletter that just hit 100,000 subscribers.
Wow, incredible. I was actually at an event with Sim the other day. It was a property event, actually not totally related to investing, but a girl from Australia came up to Sim and was like, oh my God, I follow you. And I'm like, the fact that people all around the world, you know, that they resonate and they love your content and can come up to you and be like, I'm obsessed with you. I'm like, wow, that is crazy.
That is so funny. But it's really nice to see that what we do is resonating with people in lots of different places.
So you've built this incredible brand now. Tell me, I want to take you back to where it all started.
Where it all started, I wish my life had like a very simple line of I was born, I loved finance, I studied finance, and I did Girls That Invest. And I wish life was like simple like that, but
You've made it, that is simple.
I wish that's what it was. I really do. But my life, I feel like I've lived a few lives. So it's important to share a little bit about the background before I get to, Girls That Invest. I decided when I was quite young, I was like, I just know I want to build a business. I just know I want to be like that kind of person that's in the business world. And that actually clicked for me when I saw the work you were doing, Iyia, with waist trainers, and the big Kylie Jenner post, went viral. And Iyia, it was from the North Shore, and she was a young Asian woman, and I was like, I'm from the North Shore. I'm a young Asian woman. I felt so seen, and I was like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And so in university, I got really interested in e-commerce, and I started a few e-commerce brands. I did print on demand. I tried drop shipping. I did all the things. I sold my drop shipping site, and I grew these online communities like the Indian Feminist. And then on the side of that, I was like, well, I need a traditional career. So I was also becoming an optometrist, 5-year degree, studied, started working. And with the money that I was making for my e-commerce websites, I first spent it all on Sephora. It just come out in Australia. Sephora shopping, online shopping was
Makes sense.
huge. And I loved it. And then I started saving and investing and learning about the markets. And I studied financial markets through an executive education paper through the university. And that's kind of where my interest in investing began. But I realized there was a gap for female investors. It was very invest in Amazon and Elon Musk and all these sort of quite masculine branding and masculine events. And I didn't really feel like this is my community. And so that's where it began in 2020.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting you say that, because I feel like I started investing because I saw your content.
Really?
If we do rewind pre-Girls That Invest, you're so right. It was very male-oriented. They made it seem hard.
Yes.
They made it seem like you had to have a finance degree to do investing.
Exactly. But the truth is, people with finance degrees, they don't teach you how to invest for yourself. They teach you. We've had people that have investment bankers, and they're like, I know how to manage and invest for companies, but they don't teach you personal finance 101. No one does. We have to either have parents that teach us, or you just don't learn.
Mm-hmm. You're so right. And I feel like a lot of my friends that do know have some sort of financial education. It is from parents. So what happens if your parents don't teach you that? Where else are you just meant to grow up your whole life and not have it?
Exactly. And it felt so archaic. 2020 was that time where if you didn't know how to do something, you could probably watch a YouTube video online. and you could learn anything. If you wanted to be a business owner, you could learn online. You didn't have to go and do an MBA anymore. If you wanted to learn Shopify, like I used to read all their blogs and learn like how to do things, and if I wanted to learn design, I could do that. And yet investing felt like the last industry in the world where you couldn't find reliable information online, and unless you had a person in your life, like a parent, an uncle, or an auntie that could help you, it was just left up to trial and error.
Yeah, and I guess they use a lot of jargon, which makes you just, like technical wording. So it just makes people feel like I don't know what they're talking about, so I can't do it.
I don't want to generalize, but finance pros are so good at making you feel like what they're talking about is so intelligent, and it's really not. Like, everything in finance is so simple. People talk about, like, when you see on the news and it'll be like, so-and-so company, like, did a capital raise of $10 million, and you're like, whoa, what does that mean? It just means they fundraised and they got $10 million to start a business. Like, the Girl Scouts capital raise, like, everyone capital raises, but capital raise versus asking for money, it's just jargon.
It really is. And so it's just like, dumb it down.
Dumb it down.
Dumb it down for everyone. So, okay, now we've got into this part in your story where you're educated now. So then how does Girls That Invest come about, like content creation and creating this brand?
I had some experience with growing the Indian Feminist, which was my first online media company. And that came about, I want to say like 2015, 2016. I remember seeing like feminist accounts on Instagram, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, I feel really inspired by this. I'm like learning a lot, but they're not quite relevant to my journey as a South Asian. We have more of a patriarchal society. We still have things like preference for male children over daughters being born. Lots of things that are quite nuanced, and I need a community that, covers this broad topic, feminism, but reaches and targets a more smaller demographic, which is South Asian women. And so I got really good at growing that account. I think I have a natural flair for understanding how to take difficult concepts and make them more palatable and interesting, and make them things that people go, oh, do you know what? I'm going to share this with my friend, or have dialogue in the comment section. And so I grew that to 300,000 followers. I was selling merch.
Merch?
Yeah.
What type of merch?
Everything. Tote bags,
Okay.
T-shirts, die-cut stickers.
Wow.
Like, this was the old school, like, entrepreneur journey where I'd go to the post office with, like, all these, like, bags of things, and I'm shipping die-cut stickers to, like, Germany and America and India. And my dad's like, who's buying stickers? And I was like, Dad, I'm like, I'm ordering them online from, like, I design it, I order it, I get this big batch, I'm sitting in my room, like, handwriting everyone's name on the dress. It was so fun, but it taught me sort of content management and also growing a community. So I just applied the same, but to the financial space. And now that I think about it, it was the same journey. It was like taking something that's widely needed, rather than feminism, money, but sort of narrowing it down to a certain group of people, which are young women and minorities that maybe don't feel like it's for them.
I feel like that's super interesting because, okay, you said you started in 2015. I think a lot of people, they see you and they see all your numbers and they're like, whoa, those are big numbers. But it actually, there's a lot of work and a lot of years of experience and build up towards that, right?
Yeah, I like to tell people, like, I've been in this space for, I guess, 10 years now, like, in terms of building businesses. And I was going to say I'm 25. I'm not. I'm 28. But, it's fun, though. But you put in your reps. And as you know, like, you've been in the space for so long, you put in your reps, and the distance between what you want to achieve and where you start, it just gets smaller and smaller every time.
Yeah, it's weird. The other day I was thinking, like, oh my God, I've also been running businesses for 10 years. Like, I'm so old now. But yeah, I did product businesses for like 9 years, and I've only really just started content creation. It's totally different. Still very fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you first started posting, did you feel like cringe, or, how did you sort of get into it, I guess?
Let me
cringe.
Yep. No, look, I'm taking myself back to that time. It was embarrassing. This is how backwards it was back then. I made a Facebook group which still exists. I think we have like 50,000 people in that. I keep saying I then built an Instagram account. I still remember when it had 8 followers, and I would post every day to those 8 followers. Yeah, and I would, you can still go back to the Girls That Invest account and go all the way to the very first post, and it looks like Canva vomited onto a page. Like, it is so, the font is bad, the colors don't make sense, it clashes, lots of like pinks and oranges, the pictures are like those, those Canva faceless, like kind of cartoon woman pictures, and it was like, do you want to be a KiwiSaver millionaire? Like, it was so cringy. But I told myself that I was going to do it for a year. About 4 months into it, I got my best friend Sonia to start doing the podcast with me, and I was like, let's just take this for a year. I just want you to turn up with me once a week. Let's do the podcast. I'll take care of all the back end. I'll grow the Instagram. I'll do the partnerships. I'll do the email management. I just need you to like show up and let's just do podcast together. And so that's kind of how we structured it. I hired her as a contractor, as a podcast host. I built the business, and it was so encouraged for a year because no one listened for a year.
I love that you keep going though.
You have to. I think you realize like the people that do well in business are not the like success stories from the start. They're just the ones that like keep standing.
You're so right. Like even I feel like often like a business will go bad or not quite right. Like even like Indian feminists, and I've had a couple that were like, they did all right, but then they didn't really take off. You just got to do another one. Just keep going.
Absolutely. And even when I look at things that didn't work out for me, it's fine because it just teaches you something, and then you pivot and you keep growing.
Totally. So I love the way that you simplify these really complex money topics. So do you want to walk us through how you do that in such a relatable way?
Ooh. I think I was able to learn how to simplify topics. I want to say there's 2 parts to it. One, I grew up in a household where everyone in my family is in education. Like, my mum is a teacher, my dad was a software engineer working at a school at Kristen for a while. My grandparents were principals and teachers, my uncle and aunties are like everyone in our family are teachers. And so I think the language I grew up with is very how to make things simple, good communication skills. When my mum was younger and I was younger, she was going to university, so I was like 7 years old, and she would like take me with her to her classes because there was no one to babysit me. And so I think I just grew up learning to have good language, I want to guess, and say good language skills. And then when I became a little bit older and I went to high school, I really struggled when teachers would explain things and it wouldn't make sense to me. And so I would go home and just try and learn it myself. And I learned that the best way to memorize something is to teach it to someone else. So I became that kid in high school that sometimes would get up and be like, Miss, do you mind if I explain it? And the kids would be like, yeah, can Sim explain it? Like, this didn't happen often. But I would then like teach the concepts, especially math, in a way that was just like, it was fun and it was understandable. And I would use like pop culture references, even in my book. I'm like, blended funds, they're like the, third forgotten Jonas brother of the stock market.
I love that. So when it comes to your content creation there, do you go off gut instinct, or are you looking at trends? Like how are you doing your content?
You're not gonna like my answer, so let me try and make it simple as much as I can. I think when you do something for so long, it's like a feeling, and then you post it. But I think that comes from doing something over and over and over again. Like when someone that's at the start of their journey is like, yeah, I want to start a business. I don't know what is a good business idea. And for you, it's probably difficult. I'm sure you've figured it out, but it was probably at the start difficult to articulate how you knew a business was a good idea. And eventually when you see something now, you probably just get a gut feeling. You're like, oh, this has legs to it, versus like straight away, no, this doesn't. And so if I had to simplify like that process in my mind, I know that my content, for it to be a good post, I don't schedule posts. I find that what's working now should be posted now. If you schedule it for later in the month, the platforms have moved on and the trends are maybe not as fresh. So I always like to be like on top of a trend I like to imagine that if a trend comes out, we're probably like one of the first few accounts you will see to do a trend like that. And then, you know, it kind of tails off and a lot of other people do it. So you always kind of go, oh yeah, Girls That Invest is kind of always at the forefront of it. It always has to be something that makes people happy. Like, we'll never do like, if you didn't buy Apple stocks in 1997, like that's worth 5 million now. Like, it's like, hey, you haven't started yet, that's okay. If you start now, this is what it could be. Like, it has to be positive, it has to be trendy, it has to be authentic, so it gives people an insight, or it has to be able to make people just laugh and feel good. And if you can do all those things in one piece of content, it doesn't matter if it's a post, a reel, a video, like, you'll always have people go, you know what, when I see a Girls That Invest post, I feel good. Because it's going to be something positive. It's going to make me feel like I can do it, and it empowers me instead of like tells me off.
Mm-hmm. I love that you have these like founding principles of your content, but it's really great because you're right. Like, when people see it, you don't want them to feel bad. You don't want to put them off and make them feel like it's too hard. So yeah, these are really great guidelines. Yeah.
Thank you. I guess when it's something you do, you're like, is this really helpful? Like, is anyone going to find this useful? But yeah, I guess.
And along the way, are there moments where you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing?
Every day.
Every day. Okay, give me some examples.
Oh, I'll give you 3 examples. Maybe one when I was first starting, one in the middle, and one now, because there's like a difference in every stage, but the feeling remains the same. When you're at the start of your business, I remember just thinking, like, I know that this can be something, but does anyone else believe me? And you're spending so much time trying to gain, I don't know who you're convincing. Maybe it's your customers, maybe it's like the wider society, the people you think might judge you. And so there was a lot of like, will people take me seriously? Who am I to be doing this? There was a lot of that, but you kind of have to keep going and just kind of take it on the chin. Like when we became the #1 business podcast on the Apple and Spotify charts in like America, Australia, New Zealand in November 2021, and the UK. Stuff did an article, and the photographer that they hired, he was like, this is so cool, but I have to say, you don't look like the people that hold currently the world's most popular investing podcast. And I was like, that's fair. Like, we are.
What do they look like?
Yeah, well, what do they look like? But we were like, that's fair. Like, we're trying to change that. So that's a good thing. I think in the middle of growing it, not knowing what to do, when you have something that's working, I started getting worried. I was like, well, it's working now. What if I mess it up? Like, is this my one big break in life? Is this the one thing that's going to work for me? And how do I make sure I don't ruin it? And I remember asking so many different people. I was like, talking to friends, talking to colleagues, mentors, like, what do I do with this? Clearly people are like, it's getting a lot of followers, it's getting a lot of listens. People were throwing their opinions at me of what I should do. Some people were like, start a fund, start a KiwiSaver, start this, start that. And I was like, I'm 26 years old. Like, I'm not going to do those things. Like, it doesn't align with my values. And so you kind of wonder, am I doing the right thing? And I think now when I've come on the other side, it's, you know, I know what I'm doing, I'm comfortable in how it is. I think the fear that you have of, is it going to be something that lasts? Is this going to be something that continues, you know, after I pass away? Will this platform, this business, still be able to help people become better investors? And how do I continue on that legacy and it's not just relying on me? So there's always something wrong.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I get those like little inklings of self-doubt too, here and there. I feel like it's so normal for everybody. It doesn't matter how successful, how many businesses you've had, it happens.
And maybe this is not the best way to think about it, but if you start getting really, really comfortable and going, I know exactly what I'm doing, I'm the right person, I know all the answers, and if anyone gives me advice, like, you know, I'm not going to take it. I think that's a dangerous zone to be in. I think both sides don't work. Like, you can't be so nervous about everything that you don't trust yourself. You can't be too cocky about what you're doing. Like, you know, life humbles you. I think the answer's somewhere in the middle.
Life humbles you? Oh my God, I love that. Okay, so you've got your podcast and your book. So what did the behind the scenes sort of look like for that?
So growing the podcast started off, now we've got the newsletter, the podcast, the book, and the Instagram. I say those are kind of like our 4 media pillars, and they all lead to our 6-week investing masterclass, which is our main and only paid product. And what we do to grow those channels is just really understanding, like, what do people want to know? What do people want to hear? With the podcast, it was, if I was starting again as an investor, what do I want to learn? And so we would make podcast episodes like Angel Investing 101 or Financial Markets 101, Private Equity 101. And then, we don't want to make it sound boring, so how do we make it fun and exciting and something that makes people laugh? With, writing the book, it was something that I thought would really help by just being a little bit different to the books I read. Like, I tried to read The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. I've read so many finance books over the years now as part of this job, but I have to be honest, they were really boring.
I agree with you.
And I did not finish The Intelligent Investor. It's such a thick book. It's written like a textbook. Well, it is an old textbook, so it's written like one. And so I was like, how do I take what's in these books and what I've learned, the fundamentals, and just make it fun and fresh and exciting? And I'm like, if stocks go on sale, it's like buying Tatcha moisturizer at like Nivea prices. And it's just taking this old world approach and putting in the language that I would use, that I like. I love Love Island. I love makeup. I love jewelry. I love clothes. I love bags. I can also love the stock market. And how do you combine that?
Totally. Did it take you a long time to sort of like get the book ready and get it out there?
My publishers probably don't like it when I say this, but I wrote that book in 6 weeks. I'm such a procrastinator. They gave me plenty of time. It's not their fault. But I think when you know what you're doing and you've done it for a long time, I was just like, let me brain dump and just write it all out. And then we edited it and we fixed it up. But the first draft, 6 weeks of like staying at home at my parents' house, locked myself in their room. They would like bring me dinner. They would take the plate away. Like, just, it's kind of like those big exam season moments of your life.
Like prison.
Like prison.
It sounds like prison.
I loved it though. Put me in prison, I'll write another book.
Oh, you reminded me of the days when I used to play Sims, and I'd be like in my computer, my mum would be like, dinner time, and I was like, I'm playing Sims, and they'd bring me my dinner. Anyway, different but same.
Exactly. Well, you just hyper focused.
Yeah.
I bet you had some really good Sims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. So a lot of people, they think financial success is just about how much you earn, but it's also a lot about mindset. So do you want to explain a little bit more about that?
I was definitely the kind of person that thought financial success was like about what you earned. So I think when you grow up, I don't know if you're listening and you can relate to this or not, but when you grow up with a very traditional immigrant parents that come from like a background of, like work hard, put the money away, save, and if you want to be wealthier, you have to be a harder worker. If you don't have wealth, you're not working as, like, it was very like hard work equals cash. If you want more, the work goes up. And as we get older, you realize, well, actually, that's not the case. It's more about smarter working and leveraged working. But when you think about being good with money, it's not just about the income that you have. It's also your mindset, like you said. And there really has to be, and what I believe is a number where you say, when I have this amount of money, or this salary, I need to be okay with it. And that's very hard to do because you're nodding your head. Like, if you have a business and you probably want to start a business, or you have one if you're listening to this podcast, if you tell yourself, look, if I make $100K a year that I can pull out from my business, not business profit, but a salary from my business, is that enough for me? Is it $200K a year? Is it $300K a year? Is it $500K a year? What is that number? And then work backwards and go, what do I need to do to achieve that? By having that enough number, you realize that, that's all you need. You're happy, you're satisfied, because it really is no end to how much money you want to have or what kind of lifestyle you want to have. And it becomes this trap of wanting more, keeping up with the Joneses, spending more, and then you never quite, you realize that you've kind of built like a cage for yourself where you're working even harder in your business, you're taking on clients, you're doing things that you don't even want to do if you're maybe like a lawyer or something, and you go, gosh, life was easier when I just had a 9 to 5 and, lived a simpler life. So mindset's very important.
I think it's like evaluating like your end goal, like what you said. What is actually my goal? What do I value? What do I actually want in my life? And are these actions that I'm taking, are they aligned? If they're not, then like reevaluate.
Absolutely. And I'll give you an example of myself. My goal, I always thought was I want to have $2.5 million invested, because if I have that allows me to pull out $100,000 a year from that investment. So that's like having $100,000 a year salary for the rest of my life. And that initial, lump sum of 2.5 million doesn't get smaller. Kind of like a trust fund for myself. And then when I hit that number, 2.5 million invested, I was like, $100,000, living off $100,000, like, is that going to be enough when I have kids and if I want to travel and all these other things? And I psyched myself out and I was like, no, I have to keep working more. And now that number is, okay, let me have, a bit more invested so I can pull out more money later. And I had to sit myself down and be like, Sim, choose a number, stick with it, and do not keep trying to move the needle. Otherwise, you'll never be happy.
But I feel like you work because you love it.
I do.
You're not working for the money. You're working because you love it. I can tell that.
I do, and I think I'll keep working once I hit that number, but at least the pressure of, if it all goes away, I think I struggle with a bit of, what do you call it? Like limited beliefs, where I think it can all still just the rug can get pulled under me. So I'm like a little...
I think that too, though, sometimes.
Do you? I mean, you're a veteran.
Sometimes I'm like, what if no one buys from me tomorrow? What will I do?
And it's scary. And I think I used to believe that maybe it was the industry that I was in. Maybe I was like, maybe if I was in FMCG, I wouldn't have this. People would want to buy my drinks, or they'd want to buy this and that. But the truth is, every industry has an issue of, people can stop buying tomorrow. But that's just the part of business, and you take on those risks. And that's why when you get rewarded, it's because of the calculated risk that you're taking on.
It's true, but also like people in a job, you could be made redundant. I mean, it's the same for everyone. It's the same with either business or a personal brand or a job. It could all end.
The grass
Sorry,
is
guys.
That's actually so true. The grass is not greener anywhere except, okay, that sounded very negative. The grass is greener where you water it, but it's not more green in your neighbour's garden. There's no green grass.
There's no green grass. Iyia, Sim's looking outside at my lawn and there's no grass.
There's no green grass. The only green grass was generational wealth, but I guess we just aren't working with that.
Okay, how has your relationship with money then changed from, you said once upon a time your parents educating you sort of like more work equals more dollars. How has your mindset and how does that change?
I definitely used to pride myself in being a hard worker and yes, I can pull all-nighters, and it even got to a stage where I was like, I have bags under my eyes. This is so, it was like a look, kind of like the grungy girl vibes.
The tired look.
Some people can pull it off. I was not one of them. And I grew up just thinking, okay, I of course want to have a nice life for myself. I of course want to be financially comfortable. So I'm just going to be the hardest worker in the room. And I would eat up those quotes by, I think it was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was like, always be the hardest worker in every room you walk into. Or something like that. Iyia is nodding her head, but looking very confused. A little bit of judgment. And I just thought that was what I needed to do. And I remember that was actually the values that I had even at the start of the podcast. If someone goes back and listens, I'm 23 maybe at that time in my journey. I was like, hustle culture, do the work, get the treats. And I think over time I've realized it's not hard work, it's smart work. It's the most wealth comes from leveraging, so owning assets that bring you income, owning businesses. A lot of wealthy people that I've met, it's really cool to see what they do. They will, put some money into something. They will pull some of the best, operators that they know, and they'll say to them, hey, run this. But they own the business. They're not doing it. They're just really good at putting together groups of people and making something successful. And that's not exactly as hard as, my mum, who is a early childhood teacher, who's running around all day chasing these kids. She's getting older, and she's that's in my opinion, much harder with all these screaming babies. So I don't equate hard work to equal money success. I think it's a little bit different.
Do you think it's because we're from like Asian families though? Because my family's like that too. Like I feel like my parents always like, I just need to do more work. Like work is fun. Work is my spare time.
Work is their identity.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, my mum would be like, you need to learn how to clean a house and cook and take care of yourself. And I was such a crappy kid. I was like, I'm going to make enough money that I can hire someone to do it. And she was like, no, like you need to learn. And so thank God she taught me. But I last year hired a house cleaner just to come in and, deep clean the bathroom and the kitchens and stuff like that. And so I said to Mum, I was like, Mum, I've hired this cleaner. Would you like me to get them to come to your house too? Like I'll cover it. Saves, your knees are getting a bit old. And she was like, no. I was like, let me just do it once. Cleaner came in, cleaned the house. My mum was like, I'd rather just do it myself. They didn't do it as good as I could have. And I bought her a Roomba, which is those little vacuums that clean the floor because we have a dog. And I was like, Mum, do you like the Roomba? And she was like, it takes an hour, but if I just do it myself, I'm brooming and it's done in 15 minutes. They are so good at working hard that it's so second nature to them, and they don't quite see it the way we see it, where we go, whatever we can do to get our time back, that's the true wealth. And I think for my parents, the true wealth is the hard work that they get to put in and say, look, our hard work has caused our kids to do well.
I feel like we've also got the tools now, right?
Yeah.
AI and, even online business, you've got Shopify, set up a website. It's, what I did. Set up a website, people do orders, and then you get them out. So I'm I feel like we have all the tools that maybe back in their day they didn't have the tools, and it was normal.
Absolutely. And I think back in their day they probably realized that, their focus was survival and setting up a good foundation. And then when you have a family and you have the privilege of growing up in a home where that foundation is set, you have the mental clarity and freedom to focus on how do I build from this, as opposed to how do I make sure that there's enough food on the table.
Okay, so this has all been very insightful, by the way. I want to know what is next for Girls That Invest, or you personally.
I have no idea what's next for Girls That Invest. I like to take it 1 quarter at a time. Very finance of me.
1 quarter at a time. Love that.
1 quarter, what are we now? Q2?
Yes, Q2.
So we're going to have this week, I'm going to have my Q1 meeting with myself and then my team and go, okay, what did we do last quarter? What was good? What are we going to do better this quarter? And we just do quarterly projects. This quarter we're going to focus on improving the newsletter, the podcast, or this or that. I think next for me, it's really hard to answer that because 5 years ago, I was an optometrist who had a side hustle.
Wow. When you put it that way.
So who knows what will happen in, if someone said to me 5 years ago, I'm doing their eye test and they're like, hey, Sim, one day you're going to be the Prime Minister of New Zealand is going to take you as part of their delegation to go to India and, be part of the political sphere because of your contributions to business. I would have been like, no, no, I don't think so. They got the wrong Simran. So I'm really open to where it takes me. I think I'm just going to follow my curiosity, which right now, and I think will always be the North Star that I have, and that's I love teaching. I love helping people. I love helping them learn. And I think as my life evolves, what I teach and what I help with just continues to evolve with it.
You're so right, because a lot of people, they think it takes a long time, but it's just one pivotal moment that can change everything. You could be working on something for quite a while, and then one thing just causes it to spike.
And I know exactly what that one thing was for me.
What was it?
I was in the shower listening to a podcast episode by the Mindset Mentor. I love Rob Dial. I love that man. And so this is why I love doing podcasts. And he had this episode, and it was called How People Are Making Money Online. And it was more like a mindset shift thing, where he was like, I know so many people, they have all these different ideas and they're doing nothing about them. And I meet this one guy and he's like, yeah, I'm selling Facebook ads. And he meets this other guy, he's like, yeah, I'm doing this. And he meets this woman that's like, yeah, I have an online, studio teaching, website design. He was like, so many people make hundreds of thousands of dollars online. You just need to get started. Like, you don't have to know everything. You might think that you need to know all of the steps, but a lot of people just want to learn how to get from A to B. And if you can help them how to get from A to B, from not having a business idea to having a business idea, from not knowing how to invest to learning how to invest, like, people will happily pay for that shortcut. And you just have to, I don't know, he kind of like emotionally whacked me. And I got out of the shower and I said to myself, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. It's going to happen. And I actually emailed him or DM'd him a couple of years later. And I was like, Rob, like, that episode changed my life. I became a Forbes 30 under 30. I did this and that. Like, I have a book. And it was all because of your episode. So thank you.
Wow. I feel like if, you know, my pivotal moment, she was your mentor. Okay, so this is my pivotal moment too. I one day just heard on the news, it was like 20-something-year-old girl starts clothing business at home on eBay, turns company into a $100 million company. And you're right, it's like, hold on, I'm like, okay, look what she's done. I feel like I could do it too. And that just reading that one article changed my life.
Isn't it crazy?
So it's, yeah, you sometimes just come up a piece, like fall upon a piece of information and it just changes, really affects you and changes the way you think or your goal or something.
And it's such a full circle moment because the other day I was helping her with like her course launch. I was like, this is what I do. This is what you need to do. And she's like,
Sophia.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So Sophia, the person who I read the article about.
Yeah.
And started my business because of. Now Sim is helping her with her course launch.
She got her assistant on. I was like, okay, this is what you're gonna do. This is like how I do it. Like, sent them all the information. They were moving from membership to courses, and I remember just thinking like, this is my inspiration's inspiration. Like, we're all just inspiring each other.
It's so funny. I love that. Okay, love this. We're gonna do something called the hot seat. Oh. Which is like questions you don't know these questions. I just want you to answer quickly. They're fun and hopefully not offensive.
We'll find out.
Okay, favorite personal finance book, but not your own.
Oh, Rich Dad Poor Dad. So classic.
Classic.
I don't love the guy, but it's a good book.
Mm-hmm. Really, really good concepts. I actually gifted it to like a couple of people. It's such a good book. Who do you look up to in the finance or business world?
Oh. So many people. Okay.
Top two.
Or
Ooh.
3. Sophia Maruso in the business world. Finance world, probably Sally Krawcheck. She owns Alvest.
Okay. If you weren't doing what you were doing, what would your dream career be?
Oh, easy. I would be a lecturer at a university. I'd be teaching business.
Would you?
And I probably will eventually when I'm older and I'm like done. When I'm like, hey, I'm 60. I don't want to make reels anymore. I'm going to be at a university.
Hold on. When we're all 60, are we still going to be making reels and TikToks?
I really hope not. I hope I'm retired.
We are, aren't we?
I don't want
to. Can you
to.
imagine all of us as grandmas still making reels and TikToks?
But in saying that, I follow a couple of mature ladies who are in their 70s and 60s, who have completely white hair, and they are content creators, and I follow them because I love them. They're fitness content creators, and they're like, even in your 60s, you should be doing weights. And I'm like, I want to look like that.
I've never thought about this before, but what an interesting concept. You're about to see a lot of grandmas on social media. Okay, one splurge you'll never feel guilty about.
Traveling.
Traveling.
That's my biggest splurge. My accountant looked at my traveling expenses a few years ago, and he was like, can you just run over this and make sure there's no mistake? And I was like, oh my god, that can't be real. And then I got back to him, I was like, no, I spent that.
Memories though.
Yeah.
Memories.
Yeah. Memories paid dividends.
Okay, what is a money myth that you wish people would stop believing?
That investing is for the rich and something that you start when you're rich. You can be in uni, invest $10 a week, that stuff adds up.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, because I think sometimes even my partner and I, we're like, oh, we didn't put anything in because we just did it this week. But even if you do put in the $10, $20, $30,
it makes such a difference.
It all adds up. Worst financial decision you've ever made?
Business, worst financial decision I ever made. I did a big giveaway. I was like, hey, win a Van Cleef bracelet, mother of pearl bracelet And all you have to do is follow us on this new platform, and that platform was called Threads.
And no one's on it?
No one's on it. We did have a winner, so I hope she's enjoying her bracelet.
All right, and like the last one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
It gets better.
It gets better.
It gets better. If you're listening to this right now and it's not going great, just know it gets better.
It gets better. Simple. It gets better. Okay, thank you so much. So inspiring. Absolutely love this chat, and I feel like it was very, very insightful and helpful for people. So.
Oh, thank you. Well, I hope so. I think we could have kept going on and on. I honestly had so much more to say. So maybe a round two.
Maybe round two. Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Okay, great.